immediate right is Professor Bogdan Chazan from Warsaw, who is the chairman of MaterCare International. Further over is our boss of bosses, is Dr. John Lee from Singapore, who is the president of the World Federation of Catholic Medical Associations, FIAMC. I'll ask Bogdan if he would now take over the chair.
Good evening. I'd like to welcome all participants of this meeting on behalf of the Council of MaterCare International. This is our 11th meeting, 11th international conference. The subject of it is maternal health care and the Catholic conscience. I warmly welcome everybody, priests, nuns, and all who accepted our invitation and came to Rome to reflect on the condition of the Catholic conscience, the possibility of performing professional duties by doctors, midwives, for the care of women's health, including mothers, without compromising the conscience on their own, our colleagues and our patients. I would like especially warmly welcome to this meeting Professor Majkę Troszyński, a senior professor from Poland, my educator, my promoter, a great friend of a young generation of Polish gynecologists, not only Catholic ones. He will celebrate his 94th birthday on Thursday.
Oh.
We have a talk about this fact today, and he said suddenly, "Oh yes, so far to the 100." I'm very honored that I can co-chair the inaugural session of our conference together with my dear colleagues and friends. Next to me at the presidential table is Dr. John Lee from Singapore, the president of the World Organization of Catholic Doctors, FIAMC. In October last year, many of us participated in the 14th World Congress of this organization organized by him. The Catholic doctors in an era of secularization and technology. We remember its important content, excellent organization, and hospitality of the host. Among the important sentences included in the final resolution was a reference to the theme of the present conference, that defend freedom of conscience and religious conscientious objection. Right now, we'd like to express my gratitude to Dr. Lee, the president, of his presence here for supporting our organization, namely MaterCare International, according to his opinion, is obstetric arm of FIAMC. I'm also honored to accompany during this session Dr. Robert Walley, the executive director of MaterCare International, the founder and endowor of our organization. We all know him, appreciate and love. Personally, I'm honored to know him from 15 years. He's a soul and driving force of our organization, the organizer of this conference with the team which he runs. The object of his concern in the condition of the mother in the world threatened by poverty and low standard of living in the developing countries and the culture of death in the developed countries. He puts a lot to effort to the attitude and responsibility of Catholic gynecologists, which is based on his opinion on professional competence, unshakable faith, compassion for the suffering, and work for the local environment. Catholic gynecologists, midwives, nurses, as also pharmacists are now facing a serious problem. How to be consistent with her vocation, their conscience in vocational training, the performance of professional duties, building the relationship with the patient and her family is not possible given the current limitation of the conscience clause not to prescribe contraceptives, destroying human embryos, not participating in the programs of artificial reproduction, refusal to refer a patient to prenatal testing if the mother declares that she would kill the baby if the result is abnormal, or the refusal to perform abortion or refer to abortion. Preimplantation, genetic diagnosis, surrogacy, and euthanasia are getting closer and closer to our everyday practice. Our patients expect advice and conduct compatible with their system of values. Our expertise, professional and moral authority are very important for them. We must not fail then their trust. Our voice is heard by the public and in the media in our countries. A lot depends on us. We'll discuss these issues during the conference. On the occasion of the International Conference on MaterCare International of the 18th of June 2001, St. John Paul said, "In striving to serve life, we must work to ensure that the right to professional training and practice that is respectful of conscience in law and in practice is guaranteed. Wherever the right to train for and practice medicine with respect for one's moral convictions is violated, Catholics may earnestly work for redress." Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you. May I say, John, to take a floor with us now?
Good evening, my dear brothers and sisters in Christ. It is a rare privilege to be invited to address such a group of dedicated and inspiring doctors who have given so much to the church. Let me begin with a story. Some 20 years ago, I met a very passionate Canadian doctor at a congress in Singapore. He was then and still is a rather, to put it mildly, combative personality. If you told him that something could not be done, he would position his face 2 inches from yours and stare at you with his huge unblinking eyes, demanding to know why his proposal cannot be accepted. We have since become very good friends. Although age has not mellowed him, he remains one of my inspiration and model of a Catholic doctor, despite his bellicose nature. In 1995, at a meeting in Liverpool, Rob was instrumental in the formation of MaterCare, the first truly international organization of Catholic OBGYNs. The formation of MCI was first discussed at the plenary meeting of the Pontifical Council for Justice and Peace, held at the Vatican in 1982. The birth of MaterCare coincided with an appeal by the late St. Pope John Paul II for healthcare personnel to be guardians and servants of human life. Pope John Paul instructed participants at the MCI meeting in 2001, "Your profession has become still more important and your responsibility still greater in today's cultural and social context, in which science and the practice of medicine risk losing sight of the inherent ethical dimension. And healthcare personnel can be strongly tempted at times to become manipulators of life or even agents of death." Pope John Paul goes on to say, "It is my fervent hope that medical and healthcare personnel will commit themselves wholeheartedly to the service of human life." Now, since its inception, MaterCare International has developed and carried out numerous projects in every continent, as well as becoming the professional voice of the Church. The importance of MaterCare International cannot be overstated, as in many countries, Catholic doctors are the last bastion against the tidal wave of anti-life forces, which Pope John Paul has prophesied will afflict modern-day societies. I have the greatest respect for OBGYNs, as a group of doctors who are faced with the most moral dilemmas. It's so easy for you to be tempted by riches and fame by making compromises that few will know. For example, it's easy to rationalize as okay to prescribe contraceptive pill to a patient of different faith, or to practice IVF because then we are being pro-life. Some of you, like Rob and Bogdan, have suffered martyrdom for practicing what you preach. They have exemplified what St. Paul said in 2 Timothy chapter 4, verse 7. "I have fought a good fight, I have finished the course, I have kept my faith." The fact that you are here today at great personal sacrifice and expense assures me that the Catholic OBGYNs are not a dying breed and give us much hope for the future. However, we should not be complacent in nurturing young doctors and medical students and instilling in them the right bioethical values. It is a fact that in many countries, not only practicing OBGYNs, but also young Catholic doctors who aspire to become OBGYNs are discriminated against. It's my firm hope that this conference will come up with concrete solutions to the training of the next generation of Catholic OBGYNs, not end up with a lot of talk and resolutions to be left to gather dust until the next conference. Each and every one of us should resolve to go out and actively recruit new members, especially in countries where there are few or no members. May the Holy Spirit come down upon us and guide us in our deliberations and discernment. I pray our Blessed Mother will continue to intercede for us to show us the way to holiness by coming closer to God every day. All our work will be meaningless if it's not God-centered. This is illustrated in this beautiful quote from Blessed Mother Teresa. I am but a little pencil in God's hand writing a love letter to the world. Thank you, and may God bless you and your family.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, Robert, the floor is yours.
Thank you.
Do you need a microphone? No, you have your own.
I'm delighted to see you here. Organising these conferences is a bit of a nightmare, especially if you're in Canada and you want everybody to arrive here at the same time. These have never taken on any kind of shape of being a convention or a congress. In fact, when we thought about this, we called it a workshop because you knew we weren't going to attract a cast of thousands. The gestation of MaterCare was a long one, until with John Luigi Gili, who at the time was the president of FIAMC in 2001, we said, look, we really got to get this thing off the ground, because that's what, at the plenary, as you've heard, the Holy Father wanted. He said, I want an organization, professionals, that will speak out on behalf of motherhood as obstetricians, gynecologists. But it's not enough to talk about it, you've got to do it. You've got to present yourself to your peers that what you do is relevant and people want you. And that's when we decided that we would have it in Rome, because all roads lead here. And so John Luigi was wandering around Rome, although he's a Roman, looking for somewhere to have it. And he came across this. He said to me, let's go and have a look at that. So we went and have a look. We both looked at it and we said, this is it. This is where we're going to have it. And on that first conference, workshop, we sent out, we didn't know who was around. We sent out messages to any way we could. Emails were available, but there was no social media or any kind like that. We used fax. We used personal contacts with bishops, with anybody who would come, any colleague, OBGYN, who thought the way we did and who would like to come and express their feelings. In fact, we ended up with about 120 obstetricians and from about 30 countries or more. We've never managed to get that number again. And you can see that there aren't too many. We fight the problem, as you've heard now, of real persecution, of real suffering, because people can lose everything if they stand up. And that's why the Holy Father, when he spoke to us, as John has just said, that we never been needed so much. And he more or less said afterwards, please don't quit. Please don't quit. I understand where you come from. I know how difficult it is. But he said, it is not just for you to do it. You've got to have the support of the church. Everybody. And it was at the time of the formation of the Pontifical Council for Health. Unfortunately, that's never come to be. And that's partly why we are so few. We have to get, not to do it, but to support it and encourage it and say it's important. That mothers is a fundamental part of our belief, our being, and the future of the church. It's not everything that's politically important that we've got to support. It's when we are not politically important that we know we're doing the right job. And so we have had those every other year. In fact, at the beginning, people were so pleased they wanted to come every year. So we tried it for 2 years, but by that time we were exhausted. So We then said, okay, every 2 years, and that's what it's been, every 2 years since 2002. 3, I can't remember. Anyway, we normally have these conferences in sort of late September, October, because the only people who come to Rome at this time of the year are mad dogs and Englishmen or tourists, because it's so warm. And when we have these, we book. As soon as it's over and we're leaving, we book 2 years ahead. And we did for this one. The end of September, beginning of October. Unfortunately, a pope called Francis decided to call a synod. So we got the boot. And the only available time was now. And so he suffered the heat, but the great thing that's happened in the development of the Maria Bambina is the fact that they installed brand new air conditioning. Because when we first stayed here, there was no air conditioning, and you suffered the heat and the mosquitoes. So we're here. The idea of these conferences would not to be a conference. If you want an OBGYN conference, there are hundreds of them galore. Every country has one every year. They talk about the same things over and over again. We wanted something for us that would provide support, encouragement for ourselves, and then to deal with the things of motherhood and what we thought we should be doing. And we thought, and how we can do that? Well, 3 ways. Spirituality is important. Evangelization, like to like, because nobody else was. And so that was the first thing. Second thing was bioethical issues. Most of us had never had the advantage of training in bioethics. Whatever we had done had been on our own because we knew we had to, and all of the good stuff that was available. So it was bioethical issues. And the third thing was, yes, to deal with some of the hot issues that were on the agenda for us professionally. So as you'll see from the program, at the end there are some really hot issues. 3-parent babies, how you can stop an abortion once it's been activated, using misoprostol and so on. All these issues are new. So that's why we're all here. That's why it doesn't matter if you're not an obstetrician, you're a doctor or a midwife, or just an ordinary person. That's what John Paul wanted. You all go back and do something about it, encourage, and so on. So this is the voice, and you'll see in your packages what we've accomplished. Some of us started out in 1981 in Nigeria, and in 1984, 5, later than that, I think, 90s, I can't remember, we got to Africa, to Ghana. And there the issues that we dealt with to show that we were needed was not only to talk about maternal mortality, but to look at how you provide essential obstetrics in rural areas. Given the structure, people don't seem to realize that one of the greatest things that we have in the Catholic Church is structure. We've got parishes and we've got schools. In every little nook and cranny, we've got women's organizations, we have Catholic doctors, midwives, and all the rest of it. We have a structure that other people would love to have, but we don't use it. We don't use it properly anymore. We relied all the time on the sisters and the brothers. Yes, and they were there and they gave their lives. And those who survived are now in retirement and waiting to go to God. But it's come now to the lay people, the lay professionals. And we're trying to do it with not all the professional training. That is why we've never said this was just about obstetricians. MaterCare needs the support of bioethicists, of all the other disciplines that might be relevant to help in the work that has to be done. And so, you know, we've had good support, in particular from some of the hierarchy. Some have now passed on. The last 2 years ago, we had this real support of Cardinal Pell of Sydney, Australia. And Australia has been very, very supportive of this. As you can see by the numbers of Australians here. The only problem for them, they're still crying over the fact that they lost their ashes. If anybody knows what that is, that's cricket. Anyway, so this year,